Hey there! Welcome back to Reddit Dating, best channel for cheating stories. Make sure to like and subscribe the channel for more spicy stories. Spouse fired for affair, not sure what next steps are. I will preface this by saying D-Day was slashes today. My STBXH got fired from his job a couple of weeks ago. He told me it was due to a heated conversation he had with an employee he supervised. This evening I find out that it was for misconduct related to an affair with an employee he supervised. She reached out to me on Facebook to let me know. I confronted him and he immediately denied it, but when I told him lying would only make it worse, he quietly gathered his keys and went to his mother's. I told her that he was on his way, and when she called me I told her the whole story. She's very upset at the thought of losing her only grandchildren should I move back home, where my support system is. We have a 4- and 1-year-old. I live in a state I moved to for him, 8 hours from my family. I have very few friends because for the last 10 years that I've lived here I've dedicated my time, energy, and love into building this life I thought we had together. I'm grateful that the AP confirmed my suspicions, as there have been many times over the last 10 years that I've felt something off, but brushed it aside as paranoia from being cheated on and lied to in the past. By this same person. Does life get better? I am a 35-year-old introvert with 2 small kids and virtually no friends. I do not make enough money to cover my bills, and he is still unemployed. I am lost. Update. Firstly, thank you to everyone who commented and reached out to me. Your support and kindness has meant so much. After speaking with my husband yesterday morning and telling him that I do not want to remain in the marriage, he left with some of things in a suitcase headed for his mom's. I was calm and as kind as I could be. I reiterated that our #1 priority is the children and that we can co-parent and make sure they have the best life possible. He begged me to come home and I told him no. Shortly after he left, he called me and told me he only had the one affair, despite my many suspicions over the years. He also told me he loved me. I begged him to think of his children and that this is not the end of the book, just the end of the chapter. He repeated that he loved me and I told him I'll talk to him soon. He hung up the phone and shared his Google Maps location. He was about 50 FT from the house. I had a very bad feeling and told my sister that I felt something bad was going to happen. She called the police. They showed up a few minutes later, followed a few minutes after that by more cop cars, an ambulance, and a fire truck. His car was parked up the road. They found him in the woods next to my house. My husband lost his battle with depression yesterday afternoon. His physical body is being kept alive for organ donation, but has significant brain trauma caused by a self-inflicted gunshot wound that he will never recover from. He suffered with depression his entire adult life. He has had suicidal thoughts and ideation just as long. This is not his first attempt. He had been in therapy consistently for a long time and has tried therapy and medication in the last. He told me on the phone he just wanted the pain to stop. My family has come to be with me and to take care of my children. The AP messaged me on Facebook this morning. I scanned the message before handing my phone to my sister to handle. I am waiting for the call from the hospital. The pain and guilt is unbearable. The what-ifs are crushing and unrelenting. Minutes seem like an eternity. I need to believe that this is not my fault. Thank you all again for the kindness. Story 2. Finally learning all about the infidelity from the AP years later. So this could apply to a few different subreddits, but I thought this would be most appropriate. My 30F children's father 30M, and I split up about 4 months ago after just over 5 years together. There was domestic violence. There were years of drug use on his end, lots of problems. We have a 3-year-old son and am only now getting some clarity on the period of time where he cheated on me from the second half of my pregnancy until my son was just a few months old. Basically, he had an ex who also used drugs, and around halfway through my pregnancy he relapsed and shortly after that started contacting her. I would always find communication BTW in them as well as drug paraphernalia in our house from him, and there were a lot of fights around them, but he never came clean and she never told me. Well, almost 4 years later I finally talked to her. Luckily she's clean and seems to want to be totally honest now. While he had admitted to one time of them having sex for drugs, she was SW. There were actually closer to 10 times. She admitted to me that he was always paying with drugs for sex from her. He'd come over to do drugs and ask to stay the night, try to kiss or cuddle or be close to her. She said she wasn't into that as sex for her was just for drugs. She denies romantic feelings from either one at the time, but told me he would try to be touchy with her and would ask for sex many more times than they actually did it. The last few times were at our old apartment in the last 2 weeks of the lease, when we'd already moved out and the place was basically empty. They did videos for money for drugs 3 of the times, and the rest of the times were him offering drugs for sex or asking for sex, and her saying okay, but only for drugs. I believe what she's telling me, and it's really killing me inside. It's been a few years, we just split up and aren't getting back together, but we still see each other regularly for our son, and recently I've come over and talked to him about this. He's been clean over a year now, and he's admitted to 3 times with her, but he says she offered sex many times for drugs, and that there wasn't kissing, cuddling, or anything like that. Even denies almost all foreplay. He says he never wanted to get back with her, he was just using drugs, and she was part of that life, and sex feels good. I've been an addict, and I get all the stuff about using, but I feel he really dragged me through the mud with this. Doing this behind my back and leaving me alone pregnant, and then with a newborn, and then hiding it for years before admitting the truth when finally confronted. I'm feeling like nothing he ever said to me or did for me was real. He has said this whole time and still says he loves me, has always wanted me and our family, was just up and doing things without considering how hurt I would be or how he was being to me. I don't know what to believe. I hate to believe my children's father is a sociopath, and the last 5 years of my life was a total lie. He's done therapy for a while now and has been through drug treatment and is clean, but I still don't know if his words can be true or not. I feel so lost and hurt. Thanks if you've read this far. Story 2. I, 34 female, need help to make a plan to leave husband, 31 male. Okay, so I posted a few years ago, and the comments tore me up. The general consensus was leave him. Spoiler alert, I didn't leave him. Throwaway for all the usual reasons. English is my first language, I'm just not good at it. I am 34 of husband, 31M together, for 4 years, married just shy of 2 years. My original post was July 2019. I haven't been able to find it, but recently my husband read the text version I wrote on my iPad and brought it up. He claims I never told him about it, but I remember arguing with him and showing him the top comments, basically calling me spineless, enabler, and other variations of the two. Anyway, the gist of the post was my husband wouldn't keep a job, wouldn't help around the house, wouldn't take care of the dogs. He was supposed to be going to school, but he didn't even open the plastic on his math textbook until a week before finals. There were a lot of other issues not included in the post, like his drinking, gaslighting, punching holes in the wall. Instead of putting the laundry away, he would hide it, general lying about everything, etc. There were other typical red flags, but looking back I purposely didn't mention them because I know what people would have said. Lately I have been feeling a lot of embarrassment and shame on how I have been as a person. Present day. I wish I could find that old post and read the comments again. I only got through the first few before my feelings were hurt and I went into denial. I now realize they were right. I moved into our computer room on a blow-up mattress and told him that we need to consider we are not compatible. The first night was the hardest. He tried the usual. Insulting me, telling me I'm too sensitive. He broke down the door at one point after I locked it and put a chair under the knob. He does this thing when I stop responding or when too calm, and will need to come in the space where I'm at to look for something. I usually don't say anything. At one point he said that he was coming into play the game, and I said no, that this is now my space and I did not want him in it. He said he was doing it anyway because he paid for this game, so I ripped the power cord out of the wall and said, not on the computer I paid for, you won't. He started yelling at me that why do I need this power over him, and that I abuse him financially. He left after this. After a week of me sleeping in a different room, we had the first talk and I basically told him he was unreliable and I needed stability. I told him I wanted a partner, not someone I had to take care of. He tried to bring up the post he found on my iPad and say that I don't care about him and I always wanted out and wasn't trying. I replied that I have been complaining about the same thing for the last 2 years and nothing has changed. I am now in week 3. He immediately got a job, hired by the end of week 1. He has made the usual promises, but is less than pleased about my pessimism. I told him at this point I need to see actions. I think this is a lie. I think I am getting close to leaving. What do I do next? I am not brave. I am humiliated that I have been played all this time. I was just a meal ticket. I do have a support system, but honestly I'm too embarrassed to say anything. I'm starting to waver. He says he regrets it and has been doing more around the house. He actually got a full-time job this time and says he doesn't want to divorce. He will do anything to make it work for us. This is just his usual trick, right? Also, I feel guilty because he will have to move home to his parents. I honestly don't believe he is capable of living on his own, and I feel like I'm abandoning him.